was in denial, and I was like, this is not what I want, and I kind of just had to come to terms with reality. On the 17th of January 2022, I handed my notice in to my job to move to Bali, which is crazy to think of. I was in an 8-year relationship at the time. Everything I wanted in life, all my life goals, my sense of direction, I once understood that so well, and I lost sight of it completely. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Destination Happiness. My name is Sophie and I'm super excited to be bringing you this podcast. It's something I've wanted to do for a while now, so I can share my incredible traveling experiences and stories with you, give you advice and hopefully inspire you to do some traveling yourself. If you've been following me for some time, then you'll know that I'm a travel blogger. I've been living in Bali at the beginning of this year. I did some traveling around Southeast Asia, and I'm currently living in Australia in the lovely city of Brisbane. In fact, I'm actually sat in the Botanical Gardens right now in CBD, Central Brisbane District. So if you hear some funny bird noises in the background or kangaroos, then that's the reason why. If you're new here, first of all, welcome, and thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to have you here. You can expect advice on traveling, you can expect interviews with my other travel friends and other people who are living and working abroad. And hopefully, I can inspire you to do something you've always wanted to do, step out of your comfort zone and grow as a person to become a better version of yourself. Ultimately, what I want to do is empower you to do something you've never done before, do something you've always wanted to do. There's always been that niggling feeling at the bottom of my, gut, stomach, heart, whatever, that I wanted to move abroad. I'm sure the same goes for you if there's always something that you've wanted to do. So I want to empower you to dig deeper and fulfill that potential. One of the biggest reasons why I do what I do is because I don't want to get to the end of my life and regret all the things that I haven't done. Different things, different opportunities, whether that be work, whether that be relationship related. I think regret definitely haunts you so much more than failure. So the worst thing that could happen is you could try, maybe it wasn't quite what you expected. I would definitely rather that than not try at all. People may say, well, it definitely is scary, but what's scarier for me is just the thought of regret and just the thought of not doing it, not growing as a person, staying in the same place my entire life. That's definitely a lot scarier for me. So what I'm going to cover in this podcast today, this first episode, is just the backstory of me, how I went from living my ordinary life, working 9 till 5, living for the weekends, working in an office job, not really happy. I wasn't particularly unhappy. I'll come to that in a bit. Just living that ordinary life to what I do now, having the freedom to do whatever I want, traveling, etc. And just being in the position I am now, where I can do anything I like. So without further ado, I'll get into it. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. I was once quite an ordinary person, living a very ordinary life before I began traveling. I was working 9 till 5 at a job I tolerated because it was all that I knew. Like most people, I wanted to buy a house with my boyfriend at the time. I wanted to have a fancy car and spend my weekend seeing friends. I pretty much had everything I ever dreamt of. I worked my arse off and I got a flat with my boyfriend right by the beach, which was my favourite place to be. I owned 2 beautiful cars. I had a really good job in digital marketing, which I was really proud of, and it was all in line with my passions. Everything literally seemed perfect. Despite having everything I could wish for, I knew deep down that there was something missing, and there was more to life than working 9 till 5, having nice things, physical things, materialistic things, and settling down in my early 20s. Fair enough, that might be for some people, but that just wasn't for me, and I knew I had a niggling feeling deep down. I guess it all started back in 2017 when I first went traveling with my best friend Ashley. We went traveling for 3 months to Australia and Bali. We'd always known that we wanted to go traveling, and this was just after college. All our friends were going to uni. They're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I study this, study that. They knew what they wanted to do at uni. And me and Ashley didn't, and we'd always wanted to go traveling. We had a talk at college one day. People came in, lots of different stands, talking about different things, promoting themselves, and there was a particular stand about having a gap year. Me and Ashley went straight to that, and honestly, like, after we came out of that talk, we knew exactly what we wanted. We didn't want to go to uni, we wanted to just travel. Fast forward from then to 2017, that's when we went travelling. We made so many friends, we had the most incredible time. Every day we were doing something new, whether that be skydiving, maybe like White River water rafting, going to see kangaroos, going bike riding on these like fake Harley Davidson. We would go to Fraser Island and live on the sand islands. I think it's one of the biggest sand islands in the world or something. We would live on there for like 3 days and 2 nights and go camping, and we'd see the stars. And I remember there's this one night in particular up in a place it's a bit north from Brisbane, it's in Queensland. It's called 1770, like by Agnes Water. And I remember we saw a meteor shower that night. It was clear skies, we're in the middle of nowhere, there was no light pollution. It was crazy, like we must have seen about 50 shooting stars. We sat out in the back garden. But the funny thing was, it was by like a lake or like a, I don't know, little like river or something, not a river, like a pond, like a big pond / lake. And every like half an hour or so, the sprinklers went off. But because we were sat in like silence and the sprinklers were quite loud, we get a fright every time. And yeah, it's just those little things that really stand out to you. Like, this was like 5 years ago now, and I still remember that vividly. After we came home, like, it was so good seeing friends and family again and telling them about our stories and what we'd done. But we didn't want to go home, I'm not gonna lie. Like, when we were on the plane back from Bali to London Gatwick, I remember as soon as the wheels hit the tarmac, we both looked at each other and we're just like, oh, that's it now, we're back in England. Like, this is not where we want to be. Getting our bags and stuff and going through like security, etc., whatever, like customs. And I remember with every corner we turned, we knew we were going to be seeing our parents at some point. And every corner we dreaded seeing them, not because we didn't want to see them, but because that was the defining moment to when we were home. Like, not being in England, but being with our family again. But yeah, I mean, like, it was cool and stuff, but we were just having the most incredible time. And 3 months literally just goes by like a weekend does, especially when you're having such a good time. So after we came home, I started working on my career. I started working my way up the career ladder. I initially wanted to get into the film industry, so I was doing some work, doing like, what's it called? Like running. I was a runner for like Sony, PlayStation, for BBC, made some short films and stuff. Well, a short film. And it's what I thought I wanted to do, but after like working in there for a while, I was like, this is exhausting, hey, like I'm waking up at 7 and getting home at 11 and doing the same thing all over again. So that wasn't for me. So I quickly hopped over to like a proper job, should I say. I started working in the banking industry, so I didn't hate it at first, but I didn't particularly love it. And then after 2 years, I grew to hate it, and I didn't even like holding a banknote. Like, it's money at the end of the day, but to me it was just work, paperwork. Getting a proper job was the thing to do, so I kind of was like conforming to society. At that point in my life, I was doing things that I thought was needed to be done. And eventually our adventures just drifted further and further away until they were a distant memory. Like, I could definitely say that at one point it felt like a dream, like I'd never actually gone travelling. It was just something I'd imagined. Under the surface, I was unfulfilled and fed up after working in the bank for a few years. The happiest I'd ever been was still previously. Still like when I went travelling, like I hadn't managed to top that level of happiness yet. And yeah, like I just knew that this wasn't what I wanted. I was in an 8-year relationship at the time. It pretty much got to a breaking point when me and my boyfriend at the time were having problems. To be honest, we'd been having problems for a while now, but I'm not going to get into that. I told myself that these problems would go away when we eventually moved out and got our own place together. I don't know why I thought that, because that doesn't make any sense logically, but in my mind that's what I told myself. I don't know if you've ever said that to yourself or if you know of anyone who has, but trust me, it doesn't. I decided to leave my boyfriend in May 2021 to work on myself, and I now refer to this day as the day I was reborn, so it's kind of like a second birthday to me. It was bittersweet because I had what I wanted and I achieved my dream at the time, but my dreams changed and my goals changed and it wasn't actually aligned with me anymore. I'd also been working towards getting that place for about, 2 years as well, maybe longer. So it definitely was devastating for me when I finally got there and I just knew deep down that it wasn't right. Like, I was trying to tell myself that it was fine and it was what I wanted, and how could I possibly want anything more from life because I'm already fulfilled, like this is what I've wanted. But I was in denial and I was like, this is not what I want, and I kind of just had to come to terms with reality. I was completely and utterly heartbroken. Everything I wanted in life, all my life goals, my sense of direction, I once understood that so well and I lost sight of it completely. Like, it was just soul destroying. Imagine everything you knowing and everything you're working towards and everything in your life, and you get there and none of it makes sense and none of it's aligned with who you are anymore. The me who I was beforehand is definitely not the me who I am now. The Sophie Tang who was just about to move into a place, she was complete, but she wasn't right. It's like I had to completely break myself to put all the pieces back together in the right order. It was me, it was the whole me, but it wasn't a whole me. I don't know if that makes any sense. I knew for a while that I wanted more from life, but it did take me around a year to admit it from all of that happening. It was easier for me at the time to tell myself that the life I'd always wanted was fulfilled and there wasn't really anything more for me to dream or achieve. Doing the difficult thing was the best thing for me long term, which was breaking up with my boyfriend. And yeah, I mean, it was like ripping a band-aid off. So after that, the next 6 months were a roller coaster of emotions. I learned that you can't truly appreciate the ups of life without the downs. I experienced what life was like being single for the first time, and I love this newfound freedom of being by myself and doing whatever I wanted. I spent more time with my friends, I took care of myself, came out of my shell with this new self-confidence. However, I did also suffer heartbreak. There was awful points of depression, I was at a low point, I really did feel empty inside. There were times when I would be crying at work and I would just have to leave. Like, I'd be in a meeting and I'd be crying, or like doing stuff in the morning and I just like, I don't know, I'd just break down on my desk. Like, I was depressed. And I did have to take some time off of work just to gather myself back together. It was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever been through to this day. Fast forward to November 2021, I had some holiday left to use at work. I was still at a major low point mentally at this time, but my friends were all busy. Like, they had their own stuff going on. They weren't able to come on holiday with me due to their own circumstances, like moving house, saving up for a house, etc. Like, my friends were in different points. But I still had this holiday to use, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm still going to use it. I wanted to go away by myself, and I thought, okay, well, it's something I've always wanted to do, I'm going to do it. So it was at that moment I decided I was going to book a solo trip to Italy. That was actually, I believe, the most pivotal point in my life. When you go traveling and you do all these things that you never thought you could do, you'd always wanted to do them, but you were too scared or whatever, and then you finally do it and more, and you have such an incredible time, it makes you realise that there's so much more other stuff that you can do as well. Like, it really opens your horizons and your mind, and you start thinking, like, shit, if I could do this, then I can also do that, and I can also do that. And then you realise that actually everything in life is just about you. Like, you can do anything you set your mind to. Let me give you a little story, actually. So my friend, Ashley, the one who I went travelling with before, we've been friends since we were like 4. She's more like a sister to me. She, for her birthday a few years ago, she had a flight lesson, like a experience day flight from her family gifted. And she did that and she bloody loved it. She loved it so much, she started doing her own private lessons because she wanted to fly more. And she loved it. So she was working her way to get her PPL, private pilot's license, and she thought, like, fuck, like, she said to me, she was like, Soph, like, I really love flying. Like, I actually want to make this my career. I don't know if you know, but flying, like, the process it takes to actually train to become a pilot is incredibly expensive. She was like, oh my God, like, I really want to do this. How am I going to be able to afford it? Like, fuck, you know, it's something I really want to do. And I was like, Ashley, like, this is something you really want to do, right? And you're obviously passionate about it. Like, I can see the fire in your eyes, and like I can see your face light up when you talk about flying and planes, etc. Honestly, like, I will support you no matter what. If you want to do this, then go for it. I'm so proud of you for even getting this far and like finally realizing that what you want to do is this. And I said to her, I was the supportive friend, I was like, come on, Ash, anything you do, I know you can put your mind to it. I know you can do it. And I think from us both traveling, when we went on our 2017 3-month trip to Australia and Bali, that definitely unlocked something in us. Hey, both of us just have this fire in our belly. It's like, I don't know, have you seen H2O just add water when they're in the pools and the moonlight shines on them and the full moon, and then they get this power? I feel like that's me and Ashley. We're two peas in a pod, but now we're across the other side of the world from each other, and it's super annoying because I can only catch up with her like once every couple of weeks, which is fine because I've always got plenty of stories to tell her, and she's got lots of things to catch me up on. I love you, Ash. Okay, so my trip to Italy was just incredible. I've actually written about the first 3 days that I spent in Rome. That's on my travel blog. I actually fell in love with Rome, and I began to love myself more too. I left Italy a different person than the one I arrived as. When I returned from my travels to Rome, Venice, Milan, my Italy trip, I was in a much happier mental state. But now what I wanted to do was travel. I got the bug for it again, especially after the past 2 years of, you know, COVID, being stuck in the UK, being stuck at home. I spent 2 consecutive birthdays in my garden, which is great because some people didn't have a garden. I was with my family, but, you know, I wanted to get out. Christmas came and went, and before I knew it, we're in 2022 already. At the beginning of 2022, I got COVID, and then I was sad again. I was stuck at home, I was in quarantine. For the first week, I was really sick, just in bed, sweating, like ill, sleeping loads, like there was not much I could do. But then for like the last while of my quarantine, staying at home, I wanted to stay positive and be as productive as possible. I had my to-do list. I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to stretch, I'm going to do some yoga, I'm going to do, I don't know, this, that, tidy my room, etc. Just doing anything I could to be productive at home. I also started recounting my time in Italy, and I started writing a travel blog. I had so many questions from people while I was there. The idea of sharing my experience had been floating around for some time. Everyone said to me, they're like, oh my God, Sophie, are you by yourself? Like, that's so incredible that you're in Italy alone. Like, I've always wanted to go away by myself, but I've been too scared, not really had the courage, don't know how to go about it. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I get lost? I don't speak the language, etc. There was all these complications and things that people had been bringing up to me. They're like, oh, but like, you've still managed to do it. And so I was like, right, like, I'm inspiring people right now. I've just gone and done this trip, and everyone's coming to me and asking all these questions, and so I was helping other people. I was like, right, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you're going to do this. And I think that at that time, 3 people I spoke to actually went on to book their solo trip. There was a couple I met in Milan, and I was speaking to them. We're on a rooftop terrace, like drinking and stuff. I just met them when I was at the bar by myself. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write about my travel experiences. I'm going to share them. I want to inspire more people. And so I started writing my blog. I gave them advice and reassurance, and I realised that I loved helping other people do the things that they'd wanted to do, as it made me feel incredible helping someone achieve their goals and doing stuff that they'd always wanted to do. It was just such a rewarding thing to do. So during my 2-week quarantine, I decided I wanted to take a leap of faith and work on my travel blog full-time. Although I love my full-time digital marketing job, and it did pay me kind of well, I did hand my notice in as soon as I got back. On the 17th of January 2022, I handed my notice in to my job. to move to Bali, which is crazy to think of. So yeah, I handed my notice in. It was a 4 weeks notice period, and I applied for my Bali visa. I didn't actually get my visa in time, or like straight away. I got my visa 2 weeks before I quit my job, or like 2 weeks before, like into my notice period. And then I booked my flight straight away. I remember I went round Ashley's house and we were sat together on her bed. I was like, fuck, I'm actually going to book it. I remember I did it to her. I was like, flight to Jakarta, because I had to quarantine there first as well. So I booked that a month later. So I had my month's notice period and then 2 weeks of saying goodbye to friends and family and packing. And that was it. That was me moving to the other side of the world. And yeah, I mean, it did seem far-fetched, but I knew it was something I'd been waiting to do for a while. And it was something I'd been longing for. So yeah, 6 weeks later, at the end of February 2022, I packed my bags and said goodbye to my friends and family, not knowing if I'd see them again in a matter of months or years. That was definitely a life-changing moment for me. I think I've had a lot of life-changing moments in the past year, but this was definitely another highlight. Oh my God, like, thinking about it, it just makes me... I don't know if you can, like, hear me smiling through my words, but fuck, like, I'm so glad I did that. As soon as I got to Bali, I felt right at home again because I'd been there before. The reason why I chose Bali, out of all places, was because I wanted to go to Asia, and it was somewhere I'd already been, so I wanted to get used to traveling and like being by myself in somewhere that I was kind of familiar with. And I know that Bali's got like a big scene. Well, actually, I don't think I knew this at the time, but Bali has like a big scene of like expats and people living and working there and working remotely, digital nomads, etc. So I felt really comfortable there. I spent most of my time enjoying myself and having fun, like going out, drinking and partying and going to the beach, surfing, visiting waterfalls. And yeah, I was like working on my blog in between and doing like other stuff. I think something that you can expect but won't fully comprehend until you experience it yourself is the spontaneous adventures and friendships with people you just met. Before I went backpacking in Vietnam, I had no expectations other than it was like Thailand, but maybe like 30 years in the past. My month in Vietnam was probably my favourite, as I made so many friends as a solo female traveller, and each day was packed with something new. The people you meet along the way are definitely what makes a trip stand out for me. I met my friend Elle, one of the girls I travelled with, while I was brushing my teeth in a hostel in Munich. We ended up spending the whole of Vietnam together, and then afterwards I flew to Melbourne to stay with her and her family after impulsively deciding to move to Australia. And here I am now, sat in the Botanical Gardens in Brisbane. We did so many things together as like a big friendship group, like exploring caves in Phong Nha, going on group bike rides from Hue to Hoi An, and spending 4 days in the mountains in Ha Giang, and so much more. The thrill never stops, and there's always something new to explore. I absolutely loved not caring about the pretentious, materialistic things that I once had. I'd much rather, if I had £1,000, like I would much rather spend it on traveling than, say, like buying a new designer handbag or something like that. If you ask me whether I prefer fine dining or eating rice and vegetables that cost £2 in the mountains, I will choose the mountains every time. Fine dining's nice and like fancy restaurant, eating oysters. I don't even like oysters, but expensive stuff. It's nice, but I would much prefer going on a picnic or, I don't know, just spending time in nature. You know, it doesn't even cost anything, or doesn't cost that much. For me, that is definitely what life's about. The best part is it's really not as expensive as you probably think. One of the most memorable times in Cambodia was on the island of Koh Rong, where the sand was like pure white and the ocean crystal blue. We paid $10 for a boat trip, and it took us snorkeling, it took us fishing. We went round to a private beach, and in the evening snorkeling with glow-in-the-dark plankton. It was actually a magical experience. And I remember there was a song played, what was the song called? I'll find it later. While we were swimming in the ocean with all this glow-in-the-dark plankton. Oh, hang on, let me get the name of the song. Okay, right, I found the name of the song. It was Bunny by Tourist. If you have a listen to that, if you don't know what it is, listen to that song, close your eyes, imagine you're in the pitch black dark in the middle of the ocean on a boat. You're snorkeling and there's like glow in the dark plankton all around you, and like a few jellyfish too. Honestly, that cost me $10. Another thing, a cold coconut on the beach costs about £1. The price of a sunset, $0. Travel has changed my life entirely, and I'm so grateful to have experienced all the things I have so far. Thinking ahead to all the places I've yet to visit and people I'll meet along the way actually excites me so much. It's exhilarating and it makes me feel so full-hearted. I wish everybody in life could experience travel at least once, and I wish they could feel the same way about life as I feel, and realise that there's so much more than working 9 till 5, trading your time for money and calling it living. Sometimes I wonder where I would be in life if I didn't have the courage to start solo travelling and doing the things I wanted to do. I think I would still be in denial about being unhappy and convincing myself otherwise. It wasn't a bad life before, it simply wasn't life at all. What I get asked about most is the financial side of things. In Asia, I didn't do much work as it's so cheap. I didn't even really save up in the first place to go. I just had like a few £1,000s lying around from the house. As I said, I booked the flights 2 weeks before departing, right when my visa was approved, with not much money to my name. Now I'm living in Australia, 9 months later, working towards full-time self-employment, and I'm already part of the way there. There's a siren in the background, I hope you can't hear that. Okay, hopefully you can't still hear that police siren. But yeah, I was saying, like I said before, anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Look at me, look at Ashley, my friend, I'm going to be interviewing more travellers and expats in future episodes in this podcast. So if you've got any particular questions or topics that you'd like me to cover, please do let me know. A year ago, I would never have imagined I'd be in the position I am today, to have the freedom to go wherever I want, to do whatever I want. If I said, I want to go to Mexico in the next few months and live there, I could do that. That's just crazy to me to think. So now, all I want to do is help other people live life to the fullest through travelling. Not only will you make memories and friendships to last a lifetime, you'll also find a piece of yourself that you never knew existed. What are you waiting for? You'll never make the jump if you don't take the leap. Okay, so hopefully this podcast will inspire you to do something you've always wanted to do, to grow as a person, to take a step out of your comfort zone. I want you to take away some stories to share with your friends. Maybe you want to tell them, hey, I've been thinking about doing this for a while. What do you think? I want you to go away and think about more of the things you do and what makes you happy, what truly makes you happy, whether that be art or going to the gym or gymnastics or traveling. I don't know. Everyone has different things in life that really gets the fire going in their belly. Thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to record more episodes and share interviews with my travelling friends I've met along the journey. Some of the backstories might resonate with you and inspire you to take a leap of faith and do something you've been thinking of doing. If you like this episode, please leave me a good rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc., as it really does help boost it so more people can listen in. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode.